The goal is not to be kind of a relentless productivity robot. The goal is to live a good life where you're doing meaningful and interesting things and you have good relationships. But also, it's about figuring out like what are the things that you actually want to be more effective in.
You're listening to Parenting with Impact, the podcast for parents like you, raising complex kids to become capable, independent adults, even in this complicated world. Each episode brings expert insights and real-life strategies to help you parent with confidence, calm, and clarity. Here are your hosts, Elaine and Diane.
Welcome back, everybody, to another conversation in the Parenting with Impact podcast. Our guest today is a really dear friend and colleague whom we have known and worked with and collaborated with for longer than any of us might want to admit.
Yeah, I was going to say it might be a while.
Or can remember.
Or can't remember. Ari Tuckman is known to many of you for his fabulous books and presentations on ADHD. We have worked with him in many ways. He's also, for many who know, has been the co-chair of the International Conference on ADHD for many years now. We served on the board of CHAD together for many years. This one goes back, so we're really excited to have you back.
Old home.
Yep.
We aren't old, but
Indeed. And as often happens, we've known you through publication of several books, and you got a new book. So it's a good time to have a new conversation.
I do, yeah.
What we often like to say is, how did you get to be where you are now? Like, what brought you? I know you're a psychologist. What brought you to be doing the work you do with families, particularly like your specialty really has been in the space of ADHD. So how'd you get there?
The truth of it is, when I came out of grad school in the late 90s, adult ADHD was just beginning to sort of get some notice. So I kind of fell into it, is the honest answer. But it very quickly became just a good fit for me. And of course, what's kind of hilarious is as time has gone on and I've had, contact with old people from various parts of my life, like, middle school, high school, and then college and grad school, I have friends who then told me that they have they have since been diagnosed with ADHD, which we didn't know at the time. And then I have other friends where I'll bet my house, like seriously, like I would bet my house that they have ADHD. So even before I started working in any kind of official way, I've always seemingly kind of gravitated towards folks with ADHD. So you kind of find your place in the world.
Yeah.
I love that. And I will just say that's because we are some of the most entertaining, creative, interesting people in the world. And Diane would also say she's gravitated toward people with ADHD, but maybe not for the same reasons.
They're interesting and lovely and engaging. And yes, they fill our worlds, don't they, Ari?
Yeah.
So the follow-up question is, why this book, right? It's a sort of view. This is several, and this is a new topic for you. What was it about the people in your circle or your practice that kind of led you to this particular topic?
This whole thing of just getting things done, it comes up all the time, right? It's all that's tons of sessions, people I talk to, stuff in my own life. There's so much about getting things done. And a lot of the stuff out there, a lot of the content out there related to ADHD does have some aspect of getting things done or what happens when you're not getting things done, when we talk about couples and families. But I didn't feel like there was one book that was just about getting things done for folks with ADHD. And I wanted to really do kind of a deep dive on it, right? And really get into beyond the sort of obvious advice and the sort of top 5 lists of whatever, some person on TikTok is suggesting, and to really kind of get into all the different facets of what is going to affect your ability to get something done at any particular moment and offer some real sort of, more clinical sort of wisdom and the experience and ideas I've gotten from, colleagues and friends like you guys and all our other mutual friends, and just kind of put it all into one place.
If you don't mind, here's where I'd really like to go, because I've had the opportunity to review the book, right? So I actually have some inside experience with it. And what really strikes me about it that I appreciate as a person with ADHD is the attention to the emotion of what it feels like to have ADHD. And And, we do a lot of work with parents in our community, helping to raise that awareness to understand that people with ADHD don't feel good about having it. And we reinforce
Sure.
that negative cycle and all of the shame and the shame spiral and all of that. And what I really appreciate about your work is that ability to kind of normalize it, to make it matter of fact, and then say, okay, we have to deal with the emotion instead of compounding it. So will you talk a little
Yeah.
bit about what brought you to that perspective in this?
Yeah, I love that you're bringing this up because this is definitely an important thing, and this really runs through the whole book. That as much as there's all sorts of stuff on how to get more things done, the goal is not to be kind of a relentless productivity robot, right? Where the way to live a happy life and to feel good about yourself, or to even be worthwhile in the world, is to just be like a machine cranking stuff out. Like that is not the goal. The goal is to live a good life where you're doing meaningful and interesting things and you have good relationships. So, some of that means upping your batting average in certain places, absolutely, right? That we could all be a little bit more effective at least. But also, it's about figuring out like what are the things that you actually want to be more effective in? What are the goals that you're pursuing? Are they the right goals? How do you begin to cut some things loose and say, that was a nice idea when I put it on my to-do list, ain't never going to happen, letting it go, right? And not be forever haunted because God forbid you wrote it down once, which by the way is a good reason never to write it down ever, right?
Right.
Unintended consequences. So like, and it's about sort of, I also talk about like, how do you disappoint other people when you say, yeah, it turns out I'm not going to do that thing that you want, because that's a part of productivity also. So it's really this kind of bigger, more balanced understanding because I did not want it to be one of those just get more done books. And even like, I spent a lot of time working. I actually had one cover designer who was really not that good. You pay what you get what you pay for. And then I put out more money. I was like, I want an awesome book cover, and it has to convey the fact that this is not sort of like just grind it out kind of a productivity book, right? And that there is this compassionate, sort of more humorous part of it as well. And I think he got it right. Like, I think he just totally nailed it.
Well, and I think it's important that, so often we're over here doing the how do I get the things done? Like, give me the tips and
Mm,
strategies. And what you're doing is like, let's take a step backwards and say, how do you figure out how to how to do what you really want to be doing? And what do you
yeah,
even use as that measurement? And then what is it that makes it challenging to do it in that space? So maybe that's the next place to go is like, as someone who doesn't identify as an individual with ADHD, it's like, I know that it's hard doing what I want to do. And I can only
yeah.
imagine all the extra complications. But so that, what makes it challenging to get stuff done? I know it's not an easy answer, Ari, but in 30 seconds or less.
Yeah, yeah. First of all, what makes it hard is there's a lot of potential things, right? It's not just one or two things. So, you know, it could be stuff like, what's the environment that you're working in? Maybe there's too many distractions that exceed your ability to sort of filter them out. Maybe your meds are off and you didn't get enough sleep. Maybe you're not actually that sure about what the hell you're supposed to be doing in the first place. And you're hesitant to ask because you're worried that the reason why you don't know is they told you, but you forgot and spaced out. Right. So there's that added social part of it. Maybe the problem why you're not getting it done is you have too many things in total already, So it's not about this thing, it's about all of the other things, right? Um, Maybe you need to use your tools a little bit better. So how do you use a to-do list effectively? How do you use a schedule and alarms effectively, right? Like that's a part of it also. Um, so when you struggle with getting things done, it's because it is hard, right? There's a lot of potential things. And, my hope with the book is to put a lot of this stuff up there on people's radar, kind of give you a bit of a mental checklist of like, is it this? Is it this? What about, ooh, you know what? I think it's this.
So actually, we're going to take a quick break, and then I have a question when we come back, because that just launched this whole other series of questions. So hang on, we'll be
Good.
right back.
Do you recognize current ADHD interventions fall short? At Dig Coaching, we have developed a new field of engineering and a new ADHD intervention called cognitive ergonomics from the inside out. To learn more, visit cognitive-ergonomics.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Our guest is Ari Tuckman, and we're talking about productivity and ADHD. And one of the things you said is you want to give people a way to look at when they're struggling with something to say, well, what's really underneath it? What's really the cause of it? And Diane and I use, that classic iceberg a lot. It's like, what's underneath? What's underneath? What's underneath? And continuing to kind of drill down until you get to the real core problem. And so we're kind of on the one hand talking about getting to the bottom line problem operationally of what's in a way, but then there's this other conversation about prioritization.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to shift to prioritization, because if you're not clear what's most important, then it doesn't really matter what's getting in the way if you're not really sure what your order of operations is, or how do you decide what's important. So we talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. And, this is one of those things that there's very much a circle here that on the one hand, if it's not clear to you what your priorities are, it's easy to be busy, but not necessarily effective, right? You're doing a lot of things, but they may not be the right things, or you're doing a bit of this and you're doing a bit of that, but the things aren't brought to closure, to finish, which often rounds down to not done. Right. So it can leave you feeling kind of overwhelmed, but also feeling overwhelmed and not having the time and space to step back and really think about, okay, so what is more important than what, right? Because not everything is an 11, you know what I mean? So, so part of this then is getting a bit of that breathing room and really to sort of think about what are the things that are more important, what therefore are the things that maybe got to get pushed down the list, and what's the stuff that gets pushed off of the list, right? And that's definitely a thing I talk a lot about is, cutting some things loose and making intentional choices to let it go rather than the day is done, I guess I'm not getting it done, being the thing that decides what doesn't get done.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm listening to you, and I have a particular project in my head that I know that I have not gotten back to in many months.
Mhm.
And I am an incredibly productive person. Like, I get so much done, right? And what you're saying is, it's not that I'm not busy and effective, and I'm prioritizing all kinds of other things. But
Mhm.
what I'm aware of is that this other project, which actually is a really big priority, isn't getting done because it's a big mammoth thing,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
With lots of layers and lots of steps and lots of ambiguity and not sure where to start and all of that. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's not that it's not important, it's that there are all these other obstacles.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
can you speak a little bit to what advice do you have to offer me? I mean, people like me. in
Yeah, yeah. A
this
friend.
moment.
Yeah. I mean, so on the one, there's just this simple thing of I got to work on my expense report. But, I'm just going to check my email real quick. I need, it's good to be responsive. So I should just see if I got any email. Okay, it is, that's good, right? It is a good thing to do. But also when we sort of fiddle around the edges with all these smaller, easier, cognitively easier, emotionally easier tasks instead, we don't get to the bigger things, right? And I have this phrase don't spend gold on garbage, right? So the time, these deep work times, I got 2 hours, it's uninterrupted. This is a time to really get stuff done. Do not check your freaking email, right?
Right.
Don't do the easy stuff. This is a time to do the hard stuff, you know? Um, and I think that is then what I would recommend, for this big task. If you wait to have these blocks of time, you don't have blocks of time. Come on, that doesn't happen. So you need to actually take those times and cram, drop them into your schedule and say, this is the time that I'm going to work on this.
Mhm.
Now, that's easy to say, but there's still some art to this, right? Which is, when do you put it into your schedule? What precedes it? What follows it? What other crises are blowing up? How much energy do you have? Generally, I recommend planning stuff earlier in the day. It's more likely to happen. The day's events take over the things you plan later in the day. Um, but that's the logistical side of it. There's still the element when, Tuesday at 9 shows up, are you actually going to like commit your 3 hours or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
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 Well,
And
and
that
what
is
you're
its
just
own thing.
and what you're describing, Ari, it takes you back to the previous step, which is you've got to understand what's getting in your way, right?
Yeah.
And those are great solutions. But if the problem is, I don't have an hour in my calendar, it's going to be a very different approach than the problem is I'm constantly distracted by other people's priorities, or I'm
Yes.
constantly trying to get things off my to-do list because it's easy and my brain likes the easy stuff. I mean, it's about understanding what's going on underneath it so that you can
Yeah.
solve the problem.
And that's exactly it, right? It's sort of this is somebody else's line, but I use it a lot. A problem well defined is a problem half solved.
Mm.
And it's exactly what you said, because if the problem is that you keep getting distracted with other things, right, then the solution is let's get rid of these distractions. If the problem is I genuinely have too much to do, I don't have an hour, then the solution is I need to think about, like I need to re examine my priorities. Yeah, is this a time I can do this? If so, what doesn't get done? If the problem is trouble saying no to other people, then it doesn't matter what you plan out because other people will cram their stuff into your open space, right? So, so absolutely, it is always about understanding first what the problem is or what's getting in the way.
Do that, giving yourself permission to say no to things you thought you had said yes to, and
Hmm.
how to do that, because I think that there's a lot of shame that gets wrapped up, especially for those of us with ADHD,
Yeah,
in that. But I said yes.
yeah. And the thing about that is, there's like a few layers on that. On the one is there's that kind of social capital thing of, you know, I've sort of screwed up a few things for this person. I have to do this and say yes because I sort of owe it to them. Right. Which on the one hand, that accurately reading social, fair balance and whatever, like, yes, that's good. But also, do you owe it to them? Have they
Yeah.
said that you owe it? Is this actually going to work out for the best anyway? Or are you not going to do a great job because you're forcing yourself to do it? There's also the other part of it of, I don't know, like when the idea came up in the first place, have you checked did you stop and think like, wait, what do I have? How does this fit? Do I have the time to do it? Let me look at my calendar. Do I actually have everything in my calendar? Right. So are you even able to make that kind of informed decision about it? But there's also a piece of it, which is there is very much a difference between I have looked at this and I realize this is not a thing I can do. And I'm going to let you know with plenty of warning versus I screwed up. I forgot I had it. I procrastinated. I didn't plan. And now at the last minute, I'm dropping the ball. Those are not the same thing, but they can feel like they are. Here it is, another place I didn't get it done, versus no, I made a well reasoned decision and I was assertive in telling someone this is not going to work out.
Well, and what you're describing in someone who has a typical relationship with their past failures
Mm,
is going to be easier than someone. And most of you who are listening might be in this second category, which is like, oh my gosh, I've screwed up on so many things already. I don't want to add one more things to my list. And even if it
yes.
really isn't a screw up, it's going to feel like a screw up.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is where that initial sort of people pleasing and assertiveness and, like part of productivity is saying no to some things first. So you have the time and the bandwidth to be able to do the things that you really do want to do. Um, And, let's also be clear. Sometimes the thing we do is, I don't care about this. I would rather not do it, but I care about you. And we do things for each other. So I will be a good teammate, right? So we're sort of balancing generosity and assertiveness. It's not too much of one and it's not too much of the other, but it's kind of both. Or even to just be able to have the conversation, as in, I know I said I would do this thing for you. I understand why it would be is important to you. I'm really feeling like I don't know if I can do this. Like, it's really stressing me out. I'm starting to worry. I don't think I can do it. Or if I do try to do it, it's going to come at the cost of this other stuff. I don't know what to do. Let's talk about it.
Mhm.
Right. But even that, feeling like you
Yeah.
have the right to be able to open the discussion.
Yeah, there's so much the right to be able to open the discussion because as someone who was diagnosed as an adult with ADD, right, or ADHD, the lifetime of feeling judged, whether I was or not, of feeling judged,
Right.
and the people who don't really understand it, who do judge,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Who
mean,
I
you
I
didn't
might
invent
get
all that
through it, but
feeling
it's gonna be
judged.
harder, and it's and I'm, like, celebrating it, and people are looking at me like, "What are you so excited about?" Like, there is it wraps back into that emotional field and the shame and all of that. It is fraught, isn't it?
Indeed.
It is. Ari, I would love to keep talking, and we've got to start wrapping. So I want you to think about what we haven't said that you want to talk about. Meantime, let me tell people how they can find out more about you. Um, Ari's written a bunch of books, More Attention, Less Deficit, ADHD After Dark. The ADHD Productivity Manual is the new book we're talking about. You can find all of that at adultadhdbook.com. That will be in the show notes, adultadhdbook.com. So we'll have that there. As we wrap the conversation, Ari, what have we not talked about that you want to make sure we talk about, or what have we mentioned that you want to highlight?
I think I'm going to highlight this. This is a process. Life is a process, right? And part of what is great about getting a diagnosis of ADHD or whatever, I mean, hell, I'm going to PT for my shoulder. It really helps a PT if she knows why my shoulder hurts, right?
Yeah.
Um, is it helps you understand what's going on and what you can do about it. And as you continue to learn for yourself, for your kid, for your spouse, for your community, right? You become more effective, right? And of course, life evolves and circumstances change anyway. So life keeps going even if you don't. But to kind of see it as a process and to sometimes cut yourself some slack and especially look back on your past with all that like woulda, coulda, shoulda, but you didn't know it then to know. So to just kind of see it as a process of continuing to learn, continuing to adapt, continuing to just try to do the next thing a little bit better.
Well, and I love how that's giving people hope even when you're older and you're listening to
Mhm.
this and you're in your 60s or your 50s or whatever you are. And we're not talking about leaps and bounds, but it's this sort of, oh, you know what? I really would like to be better at getting stuff done or feel like I'm saying no better or whatever it is. But you can take those steps. And what a great gift to model this stuff for your kids. If you have kids with a similar tendency to you, helping them to learn how to figure out what's going on underneath their challenges of productivity.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't remember who the thought leader was, but there was somebody who did the math of if you improve 1% every day over the course of a year, it's like sum total. I want to say it was 37%. I can't remember what the numbers are, but the concept that I hear is reinforcing it's a process and it's incremental change, and
Mhm.
little changes begin to compound into larger changes, larger growth.
Yeah, exactly. Bit by bit.
It'll bit by bit. So, Ari, you have a favorite quote or motto that you want to share before we leave?
Um, I think I'm gonna come back to the one I use, right? A problem well defined is a problem half solved, right? Like I just think that that is such an important idea.
Yeah.
And to really focus on understanding before it's tempting to leap to solutions, right? That's all that ADHD, like, oh, you should try harder. You run late, you should leave earlier. Like you
You
should
should
get
use
a
a
to-do
calendar.
list. Yeah. Hold on a sec. Let me write that down. Never heard that before. Calendar. Is that K?
What is
How do
it?
you
Yeah.
spell that? Yeah. Um, like, so to really kind of understand the process or to understand what the problem is before you start jumping into solutions.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Could
Awesome.
not agree with you more.
Yeah. No, Ari, it's been so wonderful to have you here. Congratulations on the new book. I know it's going to be amazing, and I hope everybody takes advantage of it. It's out in May, right?
It is. It's out now.
Okay.
out now, and congratulations. And I'm not sure when this is airing, but it will be airing when it is, and the information will be out, and we're sharing it in the meantime as well, of course. Thank you. Thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you.
For always being an amazing champion for our community. And we will see you in a few months. And
Awesome.
as you move your life with a little more activity in the state of Georgia, we're excited.
Indeed, indeed.
To those of you listening, take a minute, check in with yourself. What's your insight from this conversation? What are you taking away from what we've been talking about today? What's your awareness? What do you know now that you didn't know half an hour ago? Or how are you thinking about something differently?
And as always, thank you for what you're doing for yourself and for your kids. At the end of the day, you really do make a difference.
Take care, everybody. Have a great week.
You've been listening to the Parenting with Impact podcast with Elaine and Diane. For more information on the Impact Parents community or to join Sanity School for Parents, please visit impactparents.com. If you like what you've heard, please share this podcast with friends who need similar guidance and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.